Where are we going?
Where we're going, we've already arrived.
We don't need.
Wait,
We
does
don't
that
need
mean we're in New Zealand?
going. No, but I think I see what you did there.
There it is.
Right. All right. Why wait? This is episode 250 of the Loose Screws podcast.
Oh, wait.
For the 5th of September, 2024.
38 to 50.
Or
Nailed
Okay.
it. First try.
Yep. I am Commander JN Trex, and I'm joined for this very special episode by Commander Larkshadow
My shirt smells like campfire.
and Commander Chig.
and special is in air quotes.
Yeah, I think they got that. And Commander Mr. Indigo.
Hey, everybody.
Well, we did it. We got to the last episode.
Finally.
It was fun while it lasted.
God.
That was always the line, right? 250 and we're done.
That was when we started this, when we set out on this journey. No, not exactly. But since it's episode 250 and big round numbers like that get human beings all hot and bothered. Yeah, man.
Nice.
Why is that not working for you guys?
Oh, no, I love math. That works for me.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, it's a good thing
That's
we
what I
don't film this show. Everybody knows I don't wear pants.
Yeah, we're not going to start filming now.
No,
Oh my goodness.
no,
Oh,
no.
jeez.
It's okay. I have electric pants. It's good enough for both of us. That one's for you, Tef.
Don't say
Like-
his name 2 more times. He'll appear. Just don't.
Well, so we thought we'd it's episode 250. We go over some sort of reminiscing and podcast stats stuff, which apparently Commander Chig has finally somewhat loosely assembled.
Yes.
And it's a season of milestones, being with Lave having their 500th episode and us having caught up to being half their age in a mere 5 years.
and we're only
so-
half as good. So when doing the
I was going to say that rock of
Numbers,
quality has
damn
just
it.
been skipping across the bottom for a while, hasn't it?
yeah,
Not to be contrary, but they do it live every week. So
True.
we're live right now for ourselves.
that's true. We do it live too. We just don't
It
broadcast it
is.
live.
It doesn't get broadcasted, but it is a super rare day that I do any editing whatsoever after the fact.
That's a good point.
I will admit that I trimmed slightly a few spots in the last episode that I was on because I was having microphone problems. And besides really pissing me off, I actually think a couple of spots made for some pretty bad content. But I left most of it in because the other guys managed to make it all seem like it's just perfectly normal for the most part. So I
and because the
appreciate
bar
that.
is not really all that high.
Yeah, and
Wait, we have
that's
a
the
bar?
thing. That's the thing about having a very low bar, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just easier to maintain, and that's
It's true.
the kind of life I like to live.
How could we possibly let anybody down when expectations are that low?
I was going to say, what's that phrase? The quiet efficiency of low expectations.
I was going to say, I don't think we have a bar as much as we have a slight bump in the road where the asphalt layer just changed sheets.
I'd call it a pothole, actually. Okay.
Well, it's all about this kind of came up in Discord and a couple of times in Discord recently, and it is a matter of efficiency. Like, that's a pretty good way of putting it. It's not that I try to like make the show bad, but I do try to just remove as much friction as possible from creating it, to the extent, we've tried a bunch of different things over the years since we're talking about this all. We've tried much more complicated ways of handling it to try to achieve. For a while, it was just like striving for this better audio quality. We were fighting with Discord audio voice channel demons for a while that seem to have, for the most part, moved on. I think the whole Ecostructure has gotten ecosystem. What did I say? Ecostructure?
That's a good term.
Yeah.
Though. I'm
Infrastructure and
That's
ecosystem
fantastic.
together. Okay.
Yeah.
Ecostructure has just gotten a lot better, seemingly. And I also just realized that, like, for the most part, people really don't care if we're really full frequency or if we sound a little telephony, but I also do a lot of processing. I have very automated processing on the back end that kind of enhances everybody's tone a little bit, which is, again, something that we didn't have. It wasn't even there. I have tools now that weren't even created when we started this podcast. And if there's one
Like
thing,
the internet.
the AI, everybody's into the image generators and stuff like that, but there's been a couple of audio tools that have been made possible because of machine learning in the last 2 or 3 years that are just absolute black magic. So we can blame the sound of our podcast on some of those because I use that quite heavily.
Can we feed all of our podcasts into an AI generator and have it generate future podcasts and we don't have to do anything?
No.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you could try. That's not something I'm familiar with. I'm just using it to it can make some what you'd say sort of like not full frequency microphones sound a lot more like studio microphones in a way that 3 or so years ago would have been absolute black magic, and now it's just automatic. Yeah. So between those things, I think the quality of the sound of the thing has gotten better, and besides that, it's just about making it as easy as possible. So that is my sort of ethos for this. We turn on, we have a list of things to try to keep track of, so that we have something to read most of the time as far as referring to actual information when we can get it. And other than that, it's just the seat of our pants, and I think everybody realizes that when they listen, right?
I was going to say, for anyone whose eyes glazed over from the time we started talking about that, the too long didn't read version is we try and make this podcast a 50-gallon drum of lube of space.
That's
good.
Actually not
good
what
God.
he said at all.
I'm not sure I would sign off on that.
No,
Yeah, let's take a mulligan there and maybe try that
all
one
right,
more time.
rewind the tape. Start over.
This is going to be one of the rare edit moments.
I usually don't say no to anything, but that's not it.
If I get an edited moment, I'm calling that a win in my mind.
Wow.
No, literally, we have the little bot that records each of us individually. When we're done recording, I have a bunch of preset channels that have a separate EQ for each one of you. Whenever a new person comes on the show, that's the one and only time that I put some effort into EQing their voice, and then it just sits there in my preset, and I just drop everyone onto the channel that has their name on it and stick the music on the ends. That's it.
See, that's where we benefit from having a professional. Other podcasts, it's like, oh, we've got original music and all these great effects. In our case, it's like, nope.
We have
do
original
production.
music.
We make it easy.
We do have original music. Yes. Well, there was one point where some effort got put into some music, and then it was never done again.
Other than that,
just put it this way.
Reduce the friction so we can keep going.
Those that haven't been around from the beginning, kind of the reason that it became where it is and we just keep it loose and screwy is Ty Worsham, the creator of this show, where it started way back in the beginning 5 years ago.
The crazy Texan.
He started a podcast, and then Jan Trax was a super fan and came on the show and then made music for the show, then got talked into being on the show, and he happened to be a sound guy. So that raised the sound quality of the entire show, and now he's been stuck doing it almost 5 years. It's kind of impressive, but
it really is.
Because of where it came from and stuff. It's always been the passion project thing, but no, it's just we're nerds. We enjoy talking about the game once a week. We love the game, and we've just kind of kept doing it. We're not making any money from it, anything else. So we're going to make it as easily as humanly fucking possible each week. And we don't want to try to make, our sound guy do a lot of work because he could charge us his going rate, which has got to be at least an hour.
We can't afford him. Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, it's a 2 or 3 minute process, and then I push export. That takes a little while because there's a lot of stuff to push through, and the computer's doing a lot of math. But the actual effort that I put in, when we're, like I said, we're done recording, download some things, drop people onto their correct channels. and then I go back to playing whatever video game I was playing when we were recording while it
Nice.
exports, and then I copy the notes in, and so that's what it is. It's minimum friction, and it's so that when I'm not here, the rest of the crew can hop in, fire the same command at the robot, and then just send me the link. And whenever I get around to it on that Thursday evening or whatever, same difference.
Has worked
that
for
Ecostructure.
A long time.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. And there's a podcast name right there.
It is.
Write it down.
Go ahead and type that in.
Ship it.
Structure. Maybe I spelled that right. Well, it's not a word, so how am I supposed to spell? Wow.
Yeah.
Google thinks it's a word. It's not even underlining it. Okay. All right.
All right.
Well,
we do have theories. We're not sure what are words and aren't words most of the time.
that's right.
Just move brain.
Do you want to do any actual podcast news stuff? Is this squad update up? Is this? I think this is old. I'm going to be honest with you because it says this war.
Yeah, that one's old, but Balmus does still need boosting. I think we won or are about to win the war in 2151 Signy, and that's all.
It should be over by now.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Check the blah blah blah. Check the standing orders. That's not really what we're about today. No offense to anyone who's interested in that.
Do it, come to the Discord. They'll cut your ears off forever.
Yeah. It's kind of the segment on the show is kind of a teaser. So that's all.
Yes, exactly.
Oh well, next time I'll wear something different. Then my bad.
That's a tease.
I thought, obviously we were going to talk about the kind of the history of the show and some of the statistics that Chig has dug up to celebrate the 250th episode of this Loose Screws podcast. And then I have a little bit of a discussion topic that is tangentially related, and I think will be interesting and sort of came to the front, just like I said, this season of milestones with regards to the game and podcasting and stuff like that. So
that's a good.
Do you like that?
Yeah,
that's good because now I'm curious what we're going to talk about. It's
You're more curious what he found in the salt mines.
But maybe some salt will come up. Maybe not. We'll see. I tend to think that time reduces salt. I think our memories as human beings, our memories turn rosier, right? And I don't know, maybe it's just me and maybe it's just certain people or something, but I tend to forget unpleasantness about past events and remember them more fondly.
No, yeah, it's not just you. I remember the good stuff as well. I can remember the bad stuff too, but I choose not to. But it's
all
in there.
Depends on how much of a grudge holder you are. Whether you hold on to stuff for a long time or not.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know. We tend to be a pretty easygoing crew, so we don't get upset for long.
At least that's what we play on TV.
So, let's do that. Let's talk about some stuff that's, and Chig, you're the compiler of all statistics as you started this when it was appropriate to.
I don't know if you have to vamp for just a little while longer. No,
okay. I can vamp. I can.
I was almost
new name for Chig, compiler of cheese.
Oh, he was still editing a few things.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to. Here. I mean,
what
you should.
You know what I can do?
Yes,
I'll do. Let's just rearrange a little bit. So, right. For one thing, catch up on the actual podcasty stuff. I didn't pay any attention to Galnet. There was some stuff. Galnet is, tell me if I'm wrong, Galnet is basically continuing to remind us that there are powers and those powers play. Is that a pretty good summary?
I think that's a fair
statement.
statement.
A good summary in this week's update of powers and the things powers do is Antal and Sirius still don't like each other. More at 11.
Storm of the Century of the Week.
Yeah, basically. Century of the Week.
Nice. I like that.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Basically, okay. Sirius.
He's a crybaby, right? And his stock prices. Yeah,
Sirius' stocks are falling. Sirius is blaming Antal. Antal is basically blowing a raspberry back at him, and that's that.
Very good, very good. Thargoid War, Raijin continues to have its control depleted at a steady pace. Continue squeezing AX fighters. And just a reminder, get out there, even if you don't feel like doing it for long. Tag a Thargoid. If you just tag a Thargoid in 3 or 4 systems, you'll get paid a bunch of materials when they complete. Just to verify that it works. I did that one night. I spent a couple of hours and I managed to kill at least one scout, usually some more, in something like 25 systems.
Nice.
And that was weeks ago. And I've got 10 or 12 of them paid out the next day or something like that. And a few more have come in every other time I've logged in, and you end up getting some units of 6 or maybe 9 different random high-grade materials, data manufactured and raws. It's good stuff.
Very
My
cool.
favorite.
Yeah. And
Raws.
so doesn't take much. Oh, and doesn't have to be fighting either. Contributions work. Anyway, the other, what was this? Oh, so community news. The Buckyball race. Zombaland has concluded.
Ooh.
I found the results.
Oh,
Look at me being prepared. So,
Nice.
in regulation, in 3rd place, Kevin the Stabber,
Great name.
5 minutes, 22 seconds. In 2nd place, Apaphis with 5 minutes and 1 second. You know what's funny is I've heard Apaphis said so many times on various Elite Dangerous podcasts. And I'd never seen it written out because I'd never gone to look at it on a page, and I almost said it wrong anyway, I figured out who they were talking about. And then in 1st place, Osric with
Look at the final time. This race had a bunch of bonus stuff.
Oh, I'm reading. I was looking at only the wrong. I don't know how to read. Sorry, Alec. I don't know how to read your stuff. I said the times wrong. So Kevin the Stabber had 17:14. Apaphis had 16:54, and Osric had 16:32. Okay, much
Before
better.
That correction. I hope Alec is somewhere in a subway in England, just yelling at his phone about what's right and wrong about that.
Yeah, that Jenna Lander bonus was shieldless 100% at the end of the race. You get a free minute. So if you
Nice.
take no
Fantastic.
damage
That's
at all
worth
from
a
any
minute.
of your landings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did any of you
Let's
guys
see.
try the course to see what it was like? I didn't get a chance.
I didn't get
I
a
didn't.
chance either.
It was a cool one. I wish I'd had a chance to dig into it because it was taking off and landing on the same body a bunch, which is a great spin on a kind of race that doesn't really get done. So
Word is, it was very fun.
yeah,
Okay, Unlimited. 3rd place, Apaphis with final time 15:53. 2nd place, Brewski with 15:48. And then in 1st place, Shay Blackwood with
There's Shay.
12:50.
absolute legend. 3 minutes faster.
That
The
is
r-
ridiculous.
The raw time alone
Yeah,
was almost a full minute faster than 2nd
he is
place.
a machine.
Without any
Freaking
bonus,
heck.
before bonuses. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. And Alec Turner in 4th place of both.
Missed it by that much.
Of course, it was his race, so I
Yeah,
don't think he would have
actually,
put
that's a good
himself on the podium.
And then actually, you're right, because on the regulation race, he would have been in 2nd.
Oh, his time qualified.
It actually would have been
Let's look at it.
in 2nd on
16:40.
the
Yeah.
Unlimited too. Nice. Good on him.
Okay.
Well done. I mean, I would hope so with, it being his race, but still.
That he got to basically calculate and practice in the process of
right.
creating it. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So that's my community corner is. Great job, everybody.
And as always, I gotta say, if you're at all interested in finding a new way to play Elite Dangerous, the Buckyball Discord and associated races are a great way to do it. It's totally different from anything that you would naturally do in the game, and you get better at getting places fast. And there's just all kinds of crazy, zany fun and good fellowship going on over there too. So if you have any interest at all, pop in and say hi, and they will welcome you with open arms.
In the stock category, is SCO drive now stock, or is it still the old school?
It is organizers' discretion. I think it hasn't been allowed yet in a regulation race, but I could be wrong.
Okay, exactly. Curious.
Just because you can get one without any engineering, so
Yeah, exactly.
it's still not technically stock because it doesn't come with one. But
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, because the Cobra wouldn't come. But they do change one. Do they change one other thing about the ship?
yeah, it's not. It's I don't remember what exactly. It's not. It's a specific stock-ish build, regulation build,
Right.
as opposed to just straight up off the rack. But
Okay.
Ew, you fly off the rack?
That was a good one.
not for quite a while.
Sorry.
I
Don't
enjoyed
be sorry.
that.
That was awesome. You kidding? Stick to your guns, man.
So, Chig, how are you coming over there?
Oh, it's good enough. We can go with this. Yes, it's
All right.
still taking some work, but it's all good.
So this our staff record keeper, Commander
Actuary?
Chig,
Archivist?
archivist.
Sure.
You don't get to use a word like that every day, do you?
Scorekeeper.
Staff
Well, are we
cheesehead.
keeping score?
The point is, I give you the floor.
Oh, why would you do that? Whenever I'm in trouble or in charge, it's never good. No,
I don't know. There's 250 episodes, and you had a lot to do with several of
there's
them.
more than that. You chucklehead. That's the
Yeah.
problem. Is we numbered things. For some reason, non-weekly episodes. If we did a special interview or something, we would not number those episodes. So we've got an extra 24 episodes on top of the 250. So it's actually episode 275. We shouldn't mention that because we're celebrating episode 250, right?
Right,
Episode
but
257.
75. I don't know. I think it's justified to not include them in the numbers though, because this is much closer to how many weeks we've been running. There's been a few that we've missed, right?
Yeah, well,
But-
that's the whole thing. Is if it was 50 weeks in a row, then it'd be like, hey, that's simple. Well, it wasn't in a row. We did miss a few weeks here and there,
Here and there.
When like it seemed like FDev was dead for a little while there, and I don't know. There was a lot of salt around the community. I think there was an open letter at one point.
Open letters.
But I mean,
say
that's-
open letter 3 times, you'll summon on Axios.
God, don't say his name again. You're gonna get a F1N and a Daxius showing up. My God, my night couldn't get any weirder. All right, so the show started. I mean, historically, I mentioned earlier, Ty Worsham is the guy who started the show, and I believe the first episode was him with one of his buddies. Who that was the only episode that guy ever did. And then
Nope.
Ty did like an episode by himself, and then he had a guy that he had met at Dravenos. And I don't remember, where did he meet Dravenos at? Playing another game, wasn't it? I don't
I
remember
have
the history of
literally no idea.
Yeah.
You'd have to go back and
I think it's
Yeah.
a pretty safe bet that he met Dravenos playing WoW, but that's just me guessing.
That's what I'm thinking, but I don't know for sure. But Dravenos and Ty started doing the show for a little bit, and then some community people showed up. Like DJ Wiley wrote a letter to the show at one point, and they covered some stuff with him, and then Trax joined the show, as a guest at one point. Just popped on as he was doing like kind of like Community Corner now, but it was like Commander of the Week or something he was going to try to do at one point. And that's how, Trax came on the show. And then Dubs was on the show at one point, and that back then. And it seemed like anybody who appeared on the show, like as just like a guest, ended up on the show. And that has how
That
this
might have
eventually-
been the order of people joining Discord back then.
Well, it was. I mean, some of it was just having. It was making content, right? You were just sort of like it was a community thing, so you're talking to people. As far as, I think when the cast started to increase, it was a bit later when Ty was kind of ready to move on. He wasn't really feeling it anymore, kind of thing, and I didn't want to be Well, I think it was Chig and myself, right? We didn't want to be sort of like carrying this whole thing because again, it's the pressure of like, well, what if we can't think of anything, and we kind of wanted just some other bodies in here just to make it a little more stable.
Or
So
we
it's
simply
just like
couldn't make it, would be another
right.
thing,
If people aren't feeling well or they have plans or something, it's sort of like, you can't always just well, when it's something like this, like you said, this is just a hobby. It's just a thing we're doing for fun because it increases our enjoyment of this game and the community itself. That it's pressure anyway, and anyway. So the more bodies, that was sort of the idea, and there was some prominent community members who were amenable to it, and basically it was sort of like open seat casting sort of, and well, I invited them, but
well, I mean, really, it goes
each
back.
week it was sort of like who's ready, and that continues to this day. Who's
Yes.
ready this week? And sometimes some of us are like, if you don't have anybody, I'll show up, but I'm a little busy. And sooner, most of the time we have at least 3 people.
But most of the time, yes. The one thing is like in the history of the show is it started out slowly, and I'm amazed how fast the people latch onto this. But the Discord is really where the show the community took off. I wouldn't still be doing this show if it wasn't for the Discord. I feel almost obligated to be here because of the community around this, and that's why we've brought the guys onto the show over the years. I mean, the list of people that have not necessarily hosted but been on the show. I mean, hosted. It's been damn near everybody that's showed up has hosted at some point. Also, it seems. Let me find
because nobody else, even if they didn't want to, there was sooner or later there was a week where nobody else was there, and they find themselves in the senior position basically.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's lately it's been Lurk Shadow quite a bit. And thank you for that, for kind of jumping on that mantle. Nurgle has done it quite a bit in over time. Me and Trax, I haven't sat in the lead chair in quite a while. I'm super happy about that because then I have to like guide the conversation, and that blows balls. So it's so much easier just to be able to be a
Oh, you're
smart
not
ass
that bad, dude.
and whip out random comments and snark on everybody else rather than having to try to keep the train moving in the right direction. So I mean, it's been good. I mean, Teflon has hosted a number of times. And if you go back in time, I was talking, it was Ty, then it was Ty and Dravenos. Is it Dravenos or Dravenos? No, I don't know.
I think it's Dravenos'
name. And then Trax joined the show, and that went for a while. Then I joined the show, and then it became that, we had Dubs, Data, Hate. Hate joined right around the same time I did. Probably within a couple episodes, our good friend NL Hate. So he joined in. Then, as I mentioned, it was Data, the builder of Stairs to Nowhere, Doctor, Commander. I don't remember all his titles. Queen of the Night. I don't know. I don't know everything we went with him. But I mean, there was that in that section. I'm not going to avoid his name. There was Kai Zen, who was here for a while, and he's the one who really came in like a whirlwind a little bit, and he got kind of helped the whole show grow a bit, just because he was absolutely unafraid to stalk the hell out of people on other Discords, and all the different communities ended up coming on the show. Then there were big Super Friends shows, so I mean, we've had down to earth astronomy and stuff. Go ahead.
Could you say he came in like a wrecking ball? I'm sorry.
That's a good definition. He also went out like a wrecking ball.
About that, it's an ambitious attitude that I don't, I'm not going to complain about. It's not one that I share, in the sense that like, I'm not concerned really if anybody listens. It's like people are going to listen if they're going to. And he had a different attitude, right? He really wanted it to be something big, which is great. That's cool. That's an ambitious attitude. That's the thing that's difficult to maintain and requires a lot of input. And when that slips, that leads to people burning out. And so that's another thing that another side of the coin where I'm like, okay, well, I'm my input to this is basically as unfrictioned as possible, so that we can slide in, start a recording, get it done. I don't really have that kind of. I'm not like promoting anything here or anything like that. It's really just whatever the community is, whatever's going on with this community, that's what it's going to be. So yeah, there were times when the show was like bigger, probably because all of this stuff was going on. We had this guy who was hyping and doing all this stuff, and he was thinking a lot about what can we do to I don't even know how to describe it. It's just all the things, promotion and trying to make the show like a success in the way that you'd think of if you're seeing, it's like we all know each other. And I find that that's a totally different attitude to if you see like a show or a podcast or anything like that, and it's like, oh man, look at them like doing this production. If you know those people personally, it makes you feel about it differently somehow. I found this
100%.
Playing in rock bands and stuff like that. I knew and met people all the time who, it's like two kinds of people, right? One of them, it's like if they find out you're in a band, they would say, "What songs do you play?" Because they kind of think that music is it's this thing that people you don't know make. You know what I mean? It's like the famous bands, those are the ones who are making music. And if they meet someone who's in a band that's not famous, it's like, what songs do you play? Do you know what I mean? There's this kind of strange disconnect. And then, of course, we're like, well, we just make them up. We make up songs. And and it's not that they didn't believe it, it's that it literally didn't cross their mind. So you'd tell them that and they'd be like, huh? And it would sort of take a second to click and pick, oh, so it's like, the bands that you listen to that are like famous bands, we're like that, except no one's listening.
I love this
now I get
so
it. So I feel, similarly, I don't have an ambition that this would be any certain thing. Like if a lot of people suddenly started listening to the podcast tomorrow, I'd like to think it wouldn't change the way I do it, because I see that as very fleeting as well. I've seen podcast viewership go up and down wildly, and I just would like it to be easy.
I think if 1 million people started listening tomorrow, really the only thing that would change is we would need a lot more Discord moderators.
Probably. And I want for the next time, if it went big, the next time it stopped being big, that shouldn't be a reason to stop making it. Yep. And I feel like it would be if you're putting a ton of effort into things like promotion. Well, exactly. And that's my attitude about it. And that's why I don't work on anything famous, right? Because how could I with that attitude?
Well, that was a big part of where I was going too, is reason that we haven't really tried to become even really promote a lot is because it is more of a passion project and we do this for fun. We're not out here trying to make a living at this or anything. Jesus Christ, I'd be living in a van down by the river. But that's the thing. And it was cool, and we're still friends. We still talk to, Commander Burr will just send me not rude. I'm not going to say that about him, but he'll shoot me
rude messages too. It's not exclusively rude, but they're in there.
So we are deeply involved in the community. Most people know kind of who we are and stuff in the overall Elite Dangerous community. Now our Discord is a lot like the show. Nobody's ever been thrown off of the show. People leave. But nobody's ever really thrown off our Discord. I think in our 5 years of the Discord, we've only really kicked maybe 5, not even that many people out. Other than bots, have we ever
I counsel them out. I've never kicked anyone out. I've only ever I think of this term counseling them out. My wife used to work at a private high school, and they wouldn't expel anyone, but if you did something, like if a student did something really, really bad, they would have like meetings, and then the student would withdraw. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. They were counseled out.
And most of the time, it doesn't even take that. It's usually they read the room finally, and they realize that they don't necessarily fit in.
Right, exactly. The very rare, seldom times that we've had sort of problems with somebody causing a disturbance, it has taken a little bit of chatting with them about it, and then usually the outcome is, I sort of tell them, okay, so here's what's going to happen if you're going to stay here. Here's what has to happen, and usually that's within a day. They're just like, this isn't the place for me, and I'm like, I agree.
Plan. We did try that with Adaxius, but it just didn't take. Like after 4 or 5 of those, we had to just give up.
No,
he's a different kind of problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's banned from FDev's Twitch. But he still tries to get on there. So that's what would happen if we kicked him out of here. He'd just be back and he'd do one of his accents, thinking we didn't know it was him. So it might be fun just to do and see how that plays out. Starts typing everything in Discord in a different font, thinking that'll hide him.
Yeah, Adaxius gets banned, and the same day, whatever Dick Van Dyke's character's name was from Mary Poppins joins the server with the same accent.
Oh man, you made a new Discord account just for us?
No, did you say it had to be a Dick Van Dyke character because you're calling Adaxius a dick? Is that the play that you were doing there?
I think it's a bad accent joke.
Oh,
yeah,
famously wrong
Van
accent.
Dyke's Cockney accent in Mary Poppins was just so awful.
Wow. Okay, so we're thinking that Adaxius is actually Dick Van Dyke. Just trying to.
Oh my gosh, I think we figured it out.
It might be. That would explain a lot, actually.
It would. Also would explain why he's not worried about getting back on FDev's thing, because he's like 90. So
yeah.
All right. So what other fun statistics do we have access to at this point?
Let me go. Just some quick things here. In all of the episodes, everybody can probably guess who has been on the most episodes. There's 2 people who are very, very close, and I won't. Well, I will spoil it. It's me and Trax. In all of these episodes, tonight is my 167th time being on this godforsaken thing, and it's Trax's 165th. So we're separated by 2 episodes over the last 5 years.
Wow, that is remarkably consistent.
That is
right.
That is crazy. You guys should all send us checks or something.
We deserve it.
Cheese.
Now, this is one that I asked this to Trax the other day. He knew it like immediately. I want to know if either you guys know who would be on the show the 3rd most episodes.
Dubs.
Nope.
Oh. Go ahead, Indigo.
I'm going to say Nurgle.
That is correct. Winner, chicken dinner. He's been on 126 episodes. I can't believe I was shocked that he was on that many episodes. Dubs is actually 1, 2, 3. He's 7th in number of episodes on the show. So
what if you group together the people who all sound the same, though?
Oh. Well, who was it? Dubs
and Data were famously mixed up for some reason. Yeah.
Those 2 combined have been on the show more than me. But
wait, if it's the same episode, it doesn't count if they were the same person. That only counts as 1 appearance.
Oh dear.
So you actually need to be able to show us via the spreadsheet and some equation how many episodes either Dubs or Data was on, and episodes that they were both on only count for 1. Yes, please do that. Thank you.
All right. I'll put that together. At one point, I actually had the stats together when we were at, I don't know, like 150 episodes or something. I had done how many episodes were me, you, and Ty together? How many episodes were you and Ty? How many episodes were, me and Ty? And how many episodes were just me and you without Ty?
Nice.
And that number at that point, I just see it. I haven't updated it in forever, but at that point, it was me and you had been on 106 episodes without Ty at that point, and.
Wow! So you did it pretty late.
Yeah, so it must have been over 200 episodes at that point, because Ty has actually been actually after Nurgle, the next most episodes. Who do you think?
Well, the way you said that makes me think it's going to be Ty.
No.
Okay.
Now Hate has been on 100 episodes exactly.
Oh, there you go.
That's why he stopped showing up. He got to 100, and he's like, "Yep, done my part."
He's kind of popped up for. here and there lately. I think he knew he was getting close to 100. Not that any of us had any idea, but yeah,
if you're
he's been
listening,
100.
buddy.
And then there's a tie between Ty and Data, have both been on 99 episodes. So if Ty would have come on the show tonight, this would have been his 100th appearance on his own podcast.
Oh, so close.
And then it goes Dubs at 77, Teflon at 75, and then a handful of people. A Lark Shadow 50. This is your 51st actually tonight. But I mean, even like Grover Kiwi's been on 7. Bard was on 7 episodes. Dravenos had done 21. Kai had done 31. Boob, this is your 20th episode. You just passed Adaxis. You guys were tied at 19.
Sucker.
Yeah, that loser. Good old Grover Kiwi, man. We need more of his voice in here too. So Oblivious did 11 episodes. So you can see there's been a lot of people. Diva Looter was on here for 14 episodes.
Oh, Devo.
Oh,
Yep.
I miss him.
I think I literally named everybody, and that is 1, 2, 3. It's 18 different people have been on at least 7 episodes.
Nice.
No, that's
pretty
a good
cool.
way to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's kind of cool. And then you throw in, like Burr and Reaney have been on a couple of times, and then you just all kinds of interview shows from there where we've got Edelweiss for Adel. My God, I can't even pronounce. Ben has been on here. He was on here back in the day. So we've had the Lave Radio guys, Down to Astronomy, Astra from Down to Astronomy. We had Exegius on here. A lot of people, what's crazy to me is a lot of people probably don't even know Exegius anymore. And he was like one of the biggest not personalities, but producers of YouTube content there was, 5 years ago. It was insane how much stuff he was putting out. And he walked away. Shan from Lave Radio. People probably don't remember who the hell he is. Jesus Christ. Watherspoon has been on. Suv. He's another Lave Radio guy who's no longer on Lave Radio. Trying to see what other guys we have on here that showed up. Roll down. The Pilot. Remember when the Pilot was on here, and he was the first guy to mention the whole burn the bubble concept, and
still hasn't happened.
A long time ago. Yep. He mentioned that.
Of trying at least.
Almost 5 years ago in October, that'll be 5 years since he brought up that idea.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a true community thing, all along from the beginning. And that's why he came up with the show, is to try to get out. I'm talking about Ty here, to get out of his comfort zone a little bit and put together some kind of podcasty kind of thing. And now we are 23,486 minutes into this freaking roller coaster.
Woo.
Yeah. So,
and to his credit, all this time has passed, and the Elite Dangerous community is still one of the best I've ever had the opportunity to be a part of in gaming. And I mean, like, ever.
I agree. I mean, everybody.
Crickets.
Absolutely,
really? Man.
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
The 18
man.
people have been on the show, over the course of this. Vast majority of them, I never met any of these people before I started playing Elite Dangerous, or before this podcast, or before this Discord. I didn't know any of you from Boo, and now I've made a lot of friends over time, and I think all of us can vouch. We're checking Discord multiple times a day, every stinking day. We just keep track, and it's what are our friends up to, and most of us know what the main core of people, what they all do for a living, how many kids they have, everything. We all know each other. And the fact that it's been 5 years, that's a good chunk of your life. I mean, that's 10% of my life. Holy fuck.
Absolutely.
So,
and like, I don't know if I'm the only one. I don't think I am, but just because of the way adult life is, it's really hard to get out there and make friends, and Discord in a lot of ways has become my friend group, especially the Elite community here in Loose
I know,
Screws.
right?
100%.
It's interesting to me getting to hear all the history part, because I mean, it says something about the community that I feel like a latecomer, having been here for like a year and a half. But I showed up. I mean, when I showed up, I didn't know that much of that history was there. I kind of came in after it sort of flamed out in a lot of ways, both the game itself with the whole Odyssey thing, and it feels a little bit like discovering that your neighborhood bar had an owner or a manager like 2 or 3 years earlier that had the place turned into this great night spot, and it had like bands 3 nights a week. But by the time you got there, it was like, oh yeah, no, we don't do that anymore. Now we just all go to the same bar, and maybe we'll have karaoke every once in a while. But
No, we still have the band, but it's just Trevor from down the street, and all he plays is Green Day badly.
right.
No, I would have left this Discord a while ago if that was the case. No, that's a great analogy. I like the way you put that. And I think a big part of like our community and people reading the room is most of the core people and the people that stick around a lot, none of us are like overly emotional people. We tend to be very pragmatic and factual and stuff. So like when drama happens and stuff, we usually just kind of shoot it down with facts most of the time, and you can't
exasperated hand gestures. Don't forget those.
And just innate chill. Yes. It's like if a drunk troublemaker showed up at an Aikido convention or something, like throwing around trying to throw punches and just finding nothing at all, and then everybody just kind of quietly counsels them out the back door.
Yeah,
walks the door behind them.
Yeah,
this is
the party for you,
a little bit
friend.
of salt followed by a wet blanket and some cold water.
So there are probably fewer, less satisfying troll opportunities on the internet than to show up at our house and try and make trouble.
Exactly. We just kind of shake our heads and chuckle a little bit. You're not going to get a big rise out of us most of the time. We're not looking for drama, and we don't have to like police it even really, other than a little counseling out or just
disclaimer that is not a challenge, Audaxius. Down boy.
I don't know. I think we could get him to DM somebody into non-existence if we needed to. I think he'd be good at that.
Yeah, never quite been our way, huh?
Yeah, we're just very, very chill. And I mean, my favorite episode of all time is one I don't remember because I got so fucking stupid drunk that I, declared that Kraft singles are the greatest cheese ever. And if you don't like it, you're wrong. No, fuck you is what it is. That's what it is.
I loved that episode.
If you don't like it, fuck you. Yeah. Well, my wife.
I specifically remember that episode, Chig, was because for whatever reason the podcast I think had updated, at least for me, later in the day that day. And I was working as a field tech at the time, and on my way back from Idaho Falls to Boise, which is like a 4.5 hour drive, I was listening to the podcast and just laughing my head off. I loved it.
Well, let me tell you this. I've told this story before about how that happened, and my wife just grabbed me a 6-pack of beer. No big deal. If I drink 6 beers, I might get a little bit tipsy. She bought me a 14% alcohol beers. That's 4 beers.
So that's barley wine. That's different.
Yeah, basically turns into 18. And I had no idea. So I'm just drinking them. And I'm talking, and soon I'm talking slurred and loud and don't remember anything. And then they're playing sound bites back to me, and I'm like, holy fuck. Yep. I've never listened back to an episode I'm on since. That was the last time.
Oh, you've never sounded. You should. You've never sounded like that since. They're fine.
Yeah. It's that was.
Well, except that one, but we don't talk about that one.
So that was that story, and that gave our amazing acronym that I still love how it comes together. What is it? IYGLITFU. If you don't like it, fuck you. And the beauty is in that acronym is the first Y is for you, and the last U is for you. So we're even using different letters in the acronym, and we use the word "it" in the middle of it. So the IT is actually the word "it." So not only are 2 letters for the same word, we have a full word in the middle of an acronym. So it's great. And if
it really belongs in the acronym Hall of Fame. You're right. That's
absolutely.
That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, the fact that we pulled that gem out of that is amazing, and really might be the highlight of my life.
Jesus. Okay. How about favorite April Fool's gag?
Oh,
we've done quite a few. Let's see if we can even remember them all. So I can't remember what was the first one.
First year was the future, where we pretended it was the year.
Okay. And that was when I think when fleet carriers had just come in, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, or we're coming, and
Yeah.
how much it changed everything, and you just got out of jail for some reason.
Right. I
and
pretended that I'd been imprisoned.
For a year.
I was so confused that entire podcast because I had forgotten April Fool's was even a thing.
Yes.
So-
that was the first one.
So then we did one where, because this was always the joke, is we used to all gather in the recording room. We'd be chit chatting, and then eventually it'd be like, okay, is everybody ready? And we'd start recording.
Yep.
So the gag then was everybody gathered and spent like 45 minutes in pre-chat growing more and more irate that I hadn't turned up yet to push record.
Yeah.
And then eventually I turned up, and they had all been bad mouthing me, I presume, for like 45 minutes because I didn't show up in the recording as scheduled. And then I turned up, okay, guys, you ready to go? And then I stopped it. And this is,
I think that one is probably unbeatable. It's just so, it's so convincing, and so it fooled so many people.
Oh,
it did.
especially
It
Alec
did.
Turner.
100%.
That's the first salvo fired at Alec Turner, who popped into Discord the next morning. I think you've made a mistake. Oh, wait. Just a couple of minutes later. Oh, wait.
Legend.
Oh, that
Absolute
pleased me so
legend.
much.
Yeah,
I forgot
that's what you
about
want from an
that.
April Fool's prank. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
coup de grace at the end, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to think of another. Well,
Think
so
Golden
okay, so
Girls was next.
Golden Girls,
That's a close
yeah.
second, I think.
that one turned.
that was my
That was. We had some other ideas for what was going to happen, and none of them were coming together. And at the day before, it was like, well, we could just do the weird Golden Girls idea we've sort of talked about a couple of times. And I panic watched that episode of the
Me
show
too.
2 times, right before, and took a bunch of notes because I wanted to be like one of these shows that
Did you
watches
really?
a show. Yeah,
Yep.
because
my
these
God, that's
podcasts,
awesome.
these podcasts are real, man. They watch a show and you're like following the podcast as though you're all buddies. It's like a book club for a show.
Right,
And
yeah.
they have all these trivia stuff all prepped. So I wanted to have a bunch of that stuff in my pocket, right? Ready to pull out. And I really think honestly,
was
with
amazing.
maybe like 45 or 50 minutes of prep, I think we made it sound pretty good. I was
And
really,
it
really
did.
impressed.
Yeah, it was
As
it was
someone who
absolutely
listens-
convincing.
Sorry, as someone who listens to a couple of those kind of podcasts about Star Trek, where they do episode at a time, trivia, the whole
Yeah.
nine, you guys freaking nailed it.
Can I
that
say
And
was
something,
somebody
man?
who had literally just finished binging Golden Girls, watched
Oh, wow.
all of the Golden Girls over the course of a couple of months for no particular reason. It absolutely came off with exactly the right kind and level of affection for the show. It was
So good.
it was
Yeah, I did the
absolutely clear
same
that
thing.
that
I did the same thing Trex did. I watched that episode real quick, and then I'm like, I'm gonna watch the episode before too, so that I can talk about how that those lead-ins from the previous show went into
Oh
this
yeah,
show.
that
It
was a
the
good
most
idea.
prep I'd ever done for this show. Sorry guys, that was awesome. We
Oh, by far, me
just
too.
switched to a Golden Girls podcast after that because that was fun.
Just no warning. It's now Golden Girls.
So the rule for the thing was, because we didn't prepare what we were going to say. It was sort of watch the episode, make some notes, try to make it sound good. The only rule was it's not a joke. We're
Right.
actually it's only funny
Yep.
if we actually do the thing and we don't just make fun of Golden Girls the whole time,
Yep.
as if it's a joke. So, yeah, that was the bit.
And we picked the episode. That's one with Burt Reynolds in it. It was just
yeah, it's a
amazing.
good episode too.
It was a pretty good one. So was the next one then must have been LaveCon,
Yeah,
this most recent
right?
one, right? Where we
Well,
pretended to. So this one I have
ScrewCon.
this ScrewCon. That's what we call.
Yeah.
What did I just say? I just said LaveCon, didn't I?
LaveCon.
Oh my
Said
god, what a
yes,
moron!
I was confused.
What a
That's so funny.
maroon.
What a maroon. ScrewCon, yes. So this one I technically prepped quite a bit for too, because I decided we picked segments that we were going to do so that we could divide up the prep work and actually have some stuff to talk about, hopefully that would seem real. And so my bit was the F1 Manager 2024
Oh.
Manager 2024 or whatever it turned out to be. And I did a bunch of watching of reviews of F1 Manager and like the update, like video reviews of the update, so I could talk about the features. Except I changed them, right, so that to try to make like a facsimile of that video review, except as if it was about this fictional game where you're a manager. Where anyway, I tried to put all these little like references. As honestly, if anybody had actually gone and watched that like IGN review of F1 Manager 2023 or whatever the hell it was, you'd have been like, oh shoot, that's like Jay and Track's bit. He basically like he beat for beat copied it and changed the text to be about this made up game. So I don't know how well it didn't land as well as the Golden Girls thing, but hopefully it was still pretty fun.
I sincerely hope some people at Frontier Towers heard that episode and were just dying laughing.
That was fun. That was our most recent one, right? So
it was.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there one we missed? Have we done 5 or 4 of these?
I think we've only done 4. I'm going back right now to look, and I think we've only.
It must have been like our second year in the podcast or something. We actually landed on April Fool's Day. Was actually our release day, and that's what sparked the whole idea in the first place. And then since then, it was like it doesn't really matter to us. We're going to do it anyway. As long as we have a good idea. Maybe next year will be the one where there's no episode, and that's the joke.
Yeah, I missed this year. I managed to listen to this year's recently, and you guys talked about me being in jail and being stupid drunk, and yeah, that was good stuff, guys. So yeah, that was good. And then remember we had Cheese of the Week for a long time too. That was fun. I love doing that, but then just kind of ran out of cheeses at one point. But
there've been segments that came and went.
Yeah, like we did movie anniversaries for a while, which is a fun way to end the show. We've done a number of things over time.
Yeah, some of that stuff is it's never the stuff that I come up with, because I'm like, but our show's about Elite Dangerous. But that ends up being like, the other cast members, it's like, oh, let's talk about this, let's throw this in there. And in our like backroom chats, I'm always like, oh, the fluff bits, like, go ahead guys, I'm gonna mute my mic. But like a lot of people lock onto that stuff. So it's like, clearly I'm wrong. And I have
when we spend the first
misconceptions
about the show talking about our weeks, I feel we can add a little bit of fluff,
Yeah.
So
sure enough.
To be fair, it can be tangentially said as, oh, well, that's related to the Elite Dangerous, because the Elite Dangerous community is Elite Dangerous.
Oh, man. Oh. Did you know that was going to sound so profound?
No, I didn't. It just came out. I have no idea.
You heard it. You heard it the same time as the rest of us when it came out of your mouth.
Happened.
We just find Raxla? Is that what just happened?
Hey, take as many swings as I do. Occasionally, you'll hit a home run.
He's the Isaac Asimov of non sequiturs, and boy, oh boy, did that one just go out of the park.
That's why even when we were talking about Baldur's Gate every week, it was still an Elite Dangerous podcast, because we said it was, and we were talking about it.
Yeah, that's right. We did do that for a while. Oh my god, yeah, we did. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a fun run. I can't believe this is the last one. It's crazy.
Yeah, shame.
I mean, it absolutely transformed my experience of playing the game. I was playing on console and didn't really have much of a sense of what I was doing or why, and finding even just that basic BGS stuff, the go and fight these people for a reason, as opposed to play in this empty world where you never see open square on the radar. You only deal with NPCs, and to discover that by way of Lave, in my case, that hey, there are podcasts about this game, and then hey, there are weird, cool people who make podcasts and play this game, and then discover that there's a community where you can go and hang out and talk about this game is I mean, we talk about the third party tools that make it possible to do all the weird undocumented things you have to know to play, and our little Discord communities are very much the same kind of thing. It's like that's the third party app version of the community that we can't quite have using only the chat commands inside the game and only the squadron structures inside the game.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes. That was
Not that there's anything wrong with the chat in game, but could you imagine what it would look like if it were as busy
if
as our
that was our
Discord
primary
thing?
hangout, yeah.
Just memes flying up the screen as you're trying to fly your spaceship.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's even how I discovered Discord. I didn't have a sense of what Discord was, or even really that much of why Twitch was a big deal before I started playing Elite and watching stuff about Elite and watching people play video games, and all that was kind of something I'd seen other people watching, but didn't really dial into until it involved a game that I was all of a sudden fascinated by.
Fully same for me. Yeah, I didn't get on Discord. I actually was on Discord just a little bit before I met the Loose Screws people, way back at the beginning, because some randos I met in Elite Dangerous, like in a Hazres, winged up with them, and then it was like, join our Discord, and I was like, what's a Discord? So then I went and figured it out, right? Yeah. And yeah, that's so okay. So now we're starting to tip into something that's related to the next thing I was going to talk about. Okay. So, and this doesn't have to be super long.
Let me kill the spreadsheet first. There's one last bit I saw on the spreadsheet that I forgot was on here. I'm looking at random numbers, stats, everything else, and also down in one corner of the spreadsheet are some notes I made at one point to be very smarty pants. It was all my euphemisms for jerking it. Want me to run through those real quick?
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, these are all ship names or something, right?
Yep. Choke the chieftain, crank the crate, arm wrestle the anaconda, assault the asp, molest the mamba, fondle the phantom, caress the keelback, tug the type, pick a number, flog the fertilance, violate the vulture, drain the dolphin, spank the scout, clean the courier, grease the gunship, and butter the cutter. So...
What about
that was down in the corner? That was down in the corner of the spreadsheet. Wanted to share that before we moved on. All right,
dear listener, if there are any ships that got missed in that list, please, we can use going around this one again, can't we?
Yeah, tug the Type 8.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and this next segment, I know we've been going for an hour. This next segment doesn't have to be super long, but we'll see. We'll go as long as we're having fun, I guess. But in the quick little break here, I have a special received a special message, so we'll play that out now.
If there is anyone out there who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, who still wonders if the dream of our founders is alive in our time, who still questions the power of thick, Thargoid booty, tonight is your answer. Happy birthday, Loose Screws. Halfway to the big 500. And congratulations to JM Travis. Triple billion.
Brilliant.
That was awesome.
I'm dying.
All right. Thanks, man.
Oh, that was so good.
Triple Elite, finally, dude. Jesus.
No kidding.
And relative to the quality of Audaxius's accents, that was also one.
I told him when he said it, and I mean it. There was some spots in there where I couldn't hear his accent. Yep. So good job. There's a couple of spots in there. Anyway, isn't that funny?
That's awesome.
It is funny. Like, and I absolutely refuse to do an English accent on this show, but because I'm sure it sounds like pretty good when I do it in front of my daughter, right? But I am sure it's not. Holy crap. Okay. So Lave had their 500 episode. They also did this 500.5 with a bunch of the original sort of founders of their show coming on and talking about those early days and really reintroducing themselves as a little bit like we're trying to going over some old stuff here, which frankly a lot of people listening probably don't know just because it's gone on for years and doubly so on their side, and it's just a very long time, very, very long time. And Anyway, one of the things that they said kind of in passing, they're kind of congratulating the current crew for keeping it going. And the presenter message, I can't even remember who it is because, like I said, I'm not that familiar with these people. But he said that even through the dark times, meaning the launch of Odyssey, that sort of required more effort to think of how to create content for something that was going to be a weekly podcast. And that made me kind of think like, yeah, that did happen. And again, it's not that I forget about it, but like, your memory sort of shifts and reconfigures, and I don't think about it the same way as I did at the time. But like, yeah, there was some rough stuff, and some of that probably contributed to some of the episodes we missed. Just like there's just nothing going on, and everybody's kind of dwindling interest or struggling to stay interested. So how did you deal with that? How did that affect you? Did you struggle to keep interest, and what did you do? Because like I know, like I took specific actions to keep myself interested, and I'm glad I did. But I wanted to just say, like, have you thought about that or think about it right now? And what kinds of things did you do? What do you remember about those days and stuff like that? And we're all still here, right? And things have rather picked back up. So what do you think? Does anybody have an idea they want to go first, or do you want to just hear me talk some more?
I can go.
All right.
Because I know what I did to get through those times. Because like,
did it set you back? First of all,
not really, yes and no. Basically, like as y'all know me, I try to be just as optimistic as possible about this and just in life in general, just because that's just the personality that I want to have. And so when Odyssey came, unfortunately rolling out of a truck that was on fire as it crashed, I still just kept up that optimism. In fact, I tried to double it and just met it with, oh, I'm sure it'll get better and blah, blah, blah. And it's on down the line. And like for a year or so, it worked. And then it had a couple weeks of just crippling depression when that all came crashing down because I'm human. I can't keep that up.
So you basically were fueling it, right? You were like adding energy to try to keep it going, kind of thing. Is that's my read of what you're saying?
Flamethrower into my grill to keep my grill lit is what I was doing.
Yeah.
And eventually I became a little more realistic about my optimism. But I feel like that optimism has paid off with more communication and the things that have been getting fixed and the Thargoid War and all of that stuff that has come since then. Basically what I tried to do in the short version was just have faith in and rely on Elite's community. And in the end, that still paid off, at least for me.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm not meaning to be so sentimental and stuff. It's just coming out that way.
I don't know. I think it is. I think it is a little sentimental though, because, well, I mean, we have personal reactions to these things, especially with the amount of time. Like, was this ever your only game?
This has been my only game for years, and I've only recently started bringing in other games again. And by recently, I mean like in the last year and a half or so, started to bring in other games like Minecraft and Warframe just to switch things up. And it's Elite, man. I mean, it fits me.
Mm-hmm.
It's my personality, my love of simulation games. In this whole time since I'm out of raw mats, I've been out here exploring in my T8, jumping toward the crystal shard sites. I'm now only 15 jumps out, and I'm just out here having a blast finding random bullcrap on my way there.
Mm-hmm.
Random bullcrap.
Yeah.
When it came out, I had to go look up the date. I didn't realize how freaking long ago that came out. Holy crap! That was, according to Google, is this right? May 19th, 2021 is when that released.
Yeah,
over 3 years already. That's crazy to me. I guess the older you get, the faster time flies.
That's the thing. That's kind of why I thought, because it's it's like close to the midway point for this podcast at this point. It seems like it's going to be in recent times, but it's not.
And
You
it
know?
was, yeah, that came out in the first half of the years this podcast was out almost. I mean,
Yeah.
it's right about that midpoint. That is insane. And I do remember when it came out, and people call it the dark times, whatever. I remember I was angry before that when they had changed the release date and canceled for consoles, after, and they didn't announce any of that until after they had done their pre-orders. So that's when I, boycotted buying ARCs or spending any money on the game for a while, because I just felt as a company, FDev, that was a sleazy move. Let's get all of our, pre-orders in. Oh, and now we're going to announce, a few weeks later that we're going to push the release date out. And then they didn't even announce the console cancel at that point, did they? They were like,
Yeah, who do they
still
think
gonna
they are?
still gonna
Sony?
work on it.
Well, they didn't take console pre-orders for one thing, so it's not
Well,
like they sold
exactly.
anything that they didn't eventually deliver. But
it's still to me at the time it was very annoying, because I was not a person who pre-ordered games in this day and age. Why? You can just get the shit, get it all digitally and stuff. You don't have to like make sure there's going to be enough copies of it. Why pre-order? It's just silly. But I remember then when Odyssey launched, because it was in such a goofy situation, I just left the bubble and I went on a trip out in the black. I visited every sector of the galaxy. If quadrant would be,
Was that your
four,
really long trip?
I hit every single sector. I've been in every named sector of the galaxy. That was my second time to Beagle Point. Hit. And I kind of did this spiral out. I'd go out towards the center, or out towards the edge. Then I'd fly. Then I'd go back down to Explorer's Anchorage. Is that what it is? At Sagai. And I'd sell data and stuff. Then I'd fly back out and then back in. And I did the whole stinking galaxy at that point. And then when I got back, then I took up plant gunning.
Your quest of elites, right?
Yeah, that's when I did my quest of elites to get, all 6 of them. Then I got all 6 elites. That's twice as many as tracks. And then
hold on, let me check the scoreboard here. Yep, still only have the 3.
So then I did that. Now I'm on the quest to get one of each elite. I want to have an elite 0, which should be elite 1, an elite 1, which is actually elite 2, and elite 2, which is actually elite 3. There's 6 elites total. God damn, that still bugs me.
6 elites per rank, so they just X6'd everything. Yeah, it's the trouble with that is that it wasn't retroactive.
Yep.
So because elite is just a all those ranks, it's just money in, basically, like the money you made. And I think they changed some of the point values on certain things, so some of them aren't straight money now, but previously that's what it was. So like people who had combat elite for almost a decade and then suddenly they have these, they've been ranking up kills in the meantime, and those are counted in their thing, but it doesn't count toward their further ranks, and therefore it's meaningless, right? Because it wasn't ever a measure of your skill, right? Unless you would lose it over time if you didn't keep it up, right? You'd have to have some other weird system that was going to average the last 3 months or something, but it's not that way. You count up only, and therefore it's just a measure of how much you've done. And so it's saying that I'm not, my score's much closer to accurate because I didn't get elite until pretty close to when those things were happening anyway, till when the scores changed or the extra ranks were added. But there are people who had them for, years and years before me that were like, they've racked up enough kills to be elite 6 or elite 5 or whatever the fuck it's called, right there from the get-go. And they should have been, because it's a measure of how much you've done. And so in what sense is it anyway? Whatever. I think that whole thing is just so silly. But I also don't super care about them. Like you set a goal. Like I'm not criticizing your goal to like, I'm going to get these things. Like that's gameplay. You're
calling me a loser. I hear it.
No, I'm not. I'm specifically not. But for me, like I wish I could turn off my elite rank sometimes, because it changes. I used to do a bit more PvP than I get into now, just because I play less now, I think. But it changes the way your interactions go. When I stumble across a rando like who's not an elite rank, often they will just instantly bug out. And it's probably because I'm always flying a combat ship, but like they miss out on interactions with a friendly commander because they only know one kind of interaction, or they only assume they know one kind of interaction. And they see somebody rank elite and it's like, oh, they're out.
Yeah.
Or, you know, whereas I kind of wish I could not show them that and just be like, whatever. But anyway, whatever. I think I interrupted you and went on a tirade.
Well, I just need right now, my current goal is I need an Elite 4. I have Elite 5, Elite 3, Elite
What's
2.
your, wait, what are they,
Elite
which
1.
ones?
Okay, I've got Elite 5 is Explorer, Elite 3 is Trade, Elite 2 is Mercenary, Elite 1 is Combat, and then I've got 2 just plain old Elite, CQC and Plant Gunning.
So the trouble with this system is the one that's closest to getting to Elite 4, you don't want to kick up because it'll just change which one you're missing.
Yeah, one of those
Exactly.
Elite Zeros is going to have to jump a long way.
So actually,
what if you
my plan-
accidentally hit
Nope.
Elite 1 in combat before you get Elite
No, I'm
4
already
in
Elite 1
something
in
else?
combat.
Oh, okay.
But that's the thing is I would try to push Mercenary up because that one's an easy one to rank up.
Yeah.
Really doing zones, but you get small amounts of combat elite when you're doing that. So I don't want to do that to risk moving combat up. So instead, I'm gonna my plan right now is I'm gonna push Plant Gunning up to Elite 3, then push Trade from 3 to 4.
There you go.
Because
Yeah.
trade's an easy one to move too. So that's
Mhm.
that's the direction I'm going, and it's Plant Gunning is tedious. I'm only 60% through the first Elite, so I can get to Elite 1. That makes sense.
That
right?
one's easy to control too.
Yeah, exactly, because that one does not affect anything else. So that's where I'm gonna push that one to 3, and then I'm gonna push Trade to 4. And so then I'll have one of them all. I'll have what is it? You got to collect them all. I'll have Pokemon to the game. So
Oh,
I've been
man.
looked in a while, and I just checked. I am like 85, maybe 90% of the way through danger rank, so I am getting there.
well, no, then you've got Deadly, and then
Yeah,
Does
you're
Deadly come after
you
dangerous.
it's Dangerous, Deadly,
then Elite.
Elite. So you're
No,
almost to
I thought
halfway.
it was close to it. Never mind.
So and
Rip me.
and the 100% of Deadly. So from Deadly 0 to Elite is the amount of kills that were until you got Deadly. So when
Yeah,
you
so you're
hit Deadly,
halfway.
you're halfway to
And
Elite.
actually, you're not even
Right.
halfway because you get more if you're below ranks of kills you're
Right.
getting.
Right.
So it actually gets
Right.
harder.
You have to make sure you're challenging higher ranked ships on
Okay, so
average.
Yeah, it gets harder to get
revised
the
statement.
punching up
I'm
bonus.
almost halfway to elite in combat.
You're like 3/4 of the way to halfway to Elite
Yes,
in combat.
Yeah, other than CQC, that's the hardest one to rank is combat.
Yeah. And they did
As
that
it
as the one where they changed some of the rules too, because it did used to be. Well, no, I guess they always had that bit where it's money, but it only counts if they're equal or higher ranked to you or something like that.
Yeah, but a lot of people remember scouts used to be considered an elite enemy, so you could cheese your
Yeah.
way to elite by killing scouts back.
Every Thargoid, that's what it was. Is every Thargoid counted as an elite NPC? They all counted the same. So now they're more balanced. So the larger interceptors count for more, and the scouts count for not as much as an elite NPC would even.
You guys want to know
so
how
it's
to
all-
find someone who cheesed their way to elite? Shoot back.
I cheesed my way to my combat elite. I did the scout thing back in the day to see how fast you could do it.
Yeah.
But I have earned a whole nother elite since then by, doing stuff. So
Lark, that is exactly my point when I say I wish I could turn that off.
Yeah.
Because I actually don't get those encounters, these glorious encounters I hear about of some ganker who is just a seal clubber and has no skill. They don't attack me.
Yep.
And I hate that. I really want to be that person who's flying in a bubble jumper and then rounds on them and shows them how I build a bubble jumper. But that doesn't happen to me. You know, I only get the actual skilled gankers who
Full squads. Yeah.
yeah,
right,
or
you'd
the
have to
or- right,
prestige and start a new account just for that.
exactly.
Or
Anyway.
I've had
Weird
the
shit.
one shot hack guy hit me a few times too, where I
Oh,
get
yeah.
pulled and I know how to get away. But if you get killed with one shot in a fully engineered ship, they're obviously cheating.
Yeah, I got deleted by somebody in Titan space once who had that's what it was. It was like I saw a laser buzzing around and then it made contact and that was it. Ship
Yep.
deleted.
Instant kill. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm
Well,
like, yep.
I reported it, but FDev of course doesn't,
Let you know.
respond or let you know like what happened. I was like, look, here's my info. I don't know because I never even saw them, but like that's a sign, right? Because this is anyway. Indigo.
I was going to say before we wander entirely into the inside baseball realm of Chid's bizarre elite obsession. I was mostly insulated from it because I was playing on console and Odyssey came out when I didn't know that this whole culture of Elite Dangerous was going on. And
Oh, wow.
it really wasn't until a couple years after that I was listening to all the archives of the Flight Assist podcast and just working my way back through all those great conversations with content creators and commanders and stuff. And there reaches a point, incidentally, where you get to people like JN Trax and some of the Lave folks, where you're listening to interviews from before Odyssey came out, and it's kind of hard. I mean, it
So were you going
feels-
backwards? Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt. You were
yeah.
starting from more present day and going back in time. Oh, okay.
Right. And I think at a certain point I jumped farther back to get on the far side of that because there's kind of a dark stretch there where all the chats kind of have a subtext of, okay, now that the game kind of sucks, what have you been doing? But when you get to the other side of it, the conversations about what people are hoping for and thinking might be in Odyssey when it comes
Oh,
out,
yeah.
and your conversation in particular has some stuff that is just so genuinely hopeful and excited that when you hear it, knowing what actually happens in like a month from that interview, it's rough, man. It's like people excited to
Oh,
go for their
man.
trip on the Titanic. They're like, oh, it's going to be great. I saved my whole life for this trip. We're going to go over to America and start a new life. And you're like, oh, you poor bastard. Oh, you don't know what's going to happen. And like
there's the guy that bounced off the propeller.
yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like, it's hard listening to to Ben's interview or things like that, where they're talking about atmospheric planets and ship interiors and all these things that 3 years later people are still saying, well, maybe someday we'll get atmospheric planets and ship interiors and yeah, it's an interesting kind of emotional journey to hear other people who were in the know and who were pre-orders and who were Kickstarters and had all these hopes and dreams and expectations, and then there's this stretch of a good year and a half after that before a lot of people really, before the game caught up to being playable, and a lot of people just kind of ignored the Odyssey stuff for years at a time. And it's
Right.
great to, we have all these different cautionary tales and parables in game dev history, and it's a funny little period if you think about the three space games that were all kind of similarly aged, right? Star Citizen and No Man's Sky and Elite Dangerous, and they're all so completely different in how they were approached and what's happened with them. And for all the stellar stuff that No Man's Sky has been doing, and there's just something so human and relatable about what has gone on with Elite Dangerous. That it was ambitious, and then it was too ambitious, and then everything kind of flamed out, and it kind of got put back together, and the community stuck around and stuck with it, and now we've got this kind of Elite Renaissance going on where people are coming back to the game, and there are new ships, and there's a new kind of culture at FDev that makes it more engaging as a fan and as a player. But yeah, it's kind of a cool story to be a part of, even though I didn't start playing the game 30 years ago or whenever came out.
30 years ago.
For me, it's been like 3.5 years, which in video game terms is still kind of a long time, but it's still because of this particular game. I feel like I just got here.
And that was when I started playing the game. It had been around for as long as it had, and I only reason I found this game, and this is funny and ironic, I guess, is I found this game because I was looking for a game that would be cool in a VR headset. I bought a VR headset and then was looking for cool games, and this game kept popping up again and again and again, and I'm like, okay, I got to check this game out, and then just absolutely, fell head over heels in love with this game. The first night I kind of went bounty hunting, and I'm sitting above a Has-Res, and it's the ring around a gas giant, and I'm watching battles going down below me, sipping whiskey, and I'm just like, this is the coolest fucking game I've ever seen. I'm literally, a space pirate right now, and it's so cool. And then they decided, we're not gonna support or continue to develop for VR and stuff like that. And that was another low point for me. But it is kind of ironic that VR is what brought me to this game, and now I very rarely play in VR anymore.
That's funny. I found the game, like I was like always kind of a one game person, and I finished whatever I was doing. I think it was like the whole Dishonored series, which were really great games, by the way.
They were. Yeah.
But nice. I finished, and there are like multiple playthrough games because there's a lot of choices you can make and characters. Anyway, and I was like, oh man, I gotta like shop for a new game. And I looked around for a while, and after a couple of days, like this looks interesting. People complain about things like travel time, but I think I kind of dig that commitment.
Yeah,
and
100%.
I checked it out, and that steered me. It was the other way around. That steered me toward VR, because then I started getting. It was like, well, people play this in VR, and that means it's in 3D and it's all around you, and that sounds fucking great. And so this got down on my path, and now I'm basically exclusively a VR gamer. And for the longest time, this was my game. I hardly played any other VR games. In fact, I had a few. I have much more now, and I did spread out, which is sort of a side effect of the Odyssey thing, kind of slowing things down. It never fully recovered, so for me it was the Odyssey thing was a little rough, but it was like I was like, I think a little bit more like Lark about it, in the sense that it was just whatever. So that's a bummer the way it released, but whatever, they'll patch things. This is the business, the game's business right now, and that sucks. It's like I'm kind of a victim of it, of what I read about most of the time with these other games. It finally hit my game, until that, like, because when we pre-ordered the thing, it was like, it won't have VR at launch, and I don't care what you think. That can't be interpreted any other way than to insinuate that it will have VR sometime. Mm-hmm. And so that made me really upset. So it was like 3 months, right? So it came out in May 19 or something. It was like pretty much exactly 3 months later, they make this announcement. Odyssey, the On Foot is never going to have VR. And that made me really upset. And it was like a punch in the gut. It was like, this is my one game, and they're basically saying it's never gonna happen. And so I sort of sulked for like a week or two maybe, and then so what I decided was, well, no, the console players have got the same note basically on the same day as me. I was just like, well, I've still got this, what have I been telling console players the whole time, or what am I telling console players? Actually, your game didn't go away, right? Well, although it eventually did. But anyway, eventually it kind of, whatever, I guess what's there is still there, but you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, I'm just not going to play the Odyssey thing. I've still got this thing I love. It's still going to keep going in that form. I just fly the spaceships bit. And to make sure that I still don't lose interest, that was the day. Well, the day I stopped sulking was the day I decided I was going to learn flight assist off and never turn the flight assist back on again. Just turn it off. And I was like, this is it. This is what's going to keep me interested, because this is the challenge. And there were later challenges, like solo a Hydra and stuff like that. That came later after basically mastering the flight assist off. But that was super, super rewarding and single-handedly kept me engaged, because it wasn't as difficult as it seems. But it is really difficult. And it is really rewarding at the same time. Like, it wasn't as difficult in that it only really took a couple of days before I could just about fly like I wasn't drunk. And then maybe after a couple of weeks, it was like, this is it. I just look normal all the time now. I look and feel normal. So it didn't take as long as I thought it would. And it's fantastic. So highly recommend to everybody. Sometimes they get me talking about it on Discord, but
and it's one of those game experiences that I mean, at least I haven't played Star Citizen, but doesn't seem to be replicated easily in other games.
Nowhere else. Yeah.
Every other space game I've come across ends up feeling like a video game, not like a true simulator. And that's a true simulator, in a way that's fun. It's not like
a lot of them. Sorry. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Go on.
Well, a lot of them are very arcadey to begin with. Now, like, there's some simulator-ish ones, like Star Citizen, as I understand it, which I've never played. The other one that's still like an early access game, but the HunterNet Starfighter, who we've heard that developer on. I got invited into that game and have played it some. But what he did there, and I mean, he did this deliberately. It was a choice. I've spoken to him about it because it's a small enough game. If you get on, he tends to notice when somebody hops on his game, and he hops on and plays with you and helps you out, which is really kind of cool. But I was like, well, I fly without the flight assist. I'm an Elite Dangerous player. I fly without the flight assist. And he said, well, that doesn't confer an advantage in my game. In that, like, you get this like bonus thruster performance in Elite. I think mostly because your ship isn't counter thrusting all the time. So, but in his game, and I think in Star Citizen, you can basically control it granularly. So you can separate the flight assist of your translational movement from your attitude movement. So you can basically make it so that your aiming is flight assisted, even if your moving the ship isn't. Which would sort of be like the easy mode version of it. And I don't mean to sound too like discriminatory about it, but I was like, okay, but I kind of like it with it off. I like the idea of flying like the way it would fly in actual space. But he warned me, like in my game, that doesn't confer an advantage. And that is such a move, right? For Elite Dangerous to say, look, you can turn it off. And there's advantages if you master it, but it's going to be tough. That is so big, and I love it so much. And, without making it too much of a dig on other games, nobody else has made that choice. And
I have been taking
probably never will.
steps toward actually learning flight assist lately, and I can say, yes, it's hard. I have crashed into that landing pad many times so far in a space station.
The flight assist off, Trax just did the whole pull the Band-Aid off. I'm just going to learn it no matter what. I started by I'm no longer going to land or take off without flight assist or with flight assist on. I'm going to always land and take off with that, getting into stations. And it was a struggle to begin with. Then started getting that down. Then, I was doing the Thargoid things. Then, more orbiting with flight assist off and getting the hang of it. And I slowly worked into flight assist off. Now if I turn flight assist on, it just feels like I'm flying in mud. So it's hard to ever use flight assist
ship in
on
peanut
anymore.
butter.
Flight assist on is my parking brake, I call it. If I just want to park, I turn flight assist on, and that's my parking brake if I need to go grab a beverage or something. So
sure. If you're on a planet, if you're fighting over a planet and you accidentally boost the wrong way and you can't pull out of it, which happens regularly, the flight assist will stop you. Even if literally boosting in the opposite direction isn't powerful enough to, the flight assist cheats in this game, and it will bring you to a stop before you crash. So that's a good move.
Insanely frustrating. You cannot boost out of a collision with the planet with flight assist off, and it's like, why? Please God, and you start that.
But if you just turn it off,
using your parking brake.
If you just turn the flight assist on and let go of the controls, your regular maneuvering thrusters will suddenly have the power to stop you. It's great, just great.
But I mean, that was one other thing I just noticed too. I went back to look because I was curious because mentioned you got into flight assist off and then soloing a Hydra. That's the other thing that I did is when I got back is I got deep into the fighting Thargoids, and I soloed my first Hydra almost a year. It was a year and 2 days from Odyssey release is when I soloed my first Hydra. So that was
After,
definitely
you mean, right?
something I was doing. Yeah, after Odyssey.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, a year and 2 days after Odyssey's release is when I soloed my first Hydra. So that obviously I was working on that during that transition period. Also, I wasn't doing Odyssey stuff. I was fighting Thargoids.
Yeah.
Can I take a moment to say bravo on the SCO drive again, because I'm out here at the crystal sites now, and the first planet I wanted to go to is 150,000 some odd light seconds away, and I covered most of that distance in about 15-20 seconds, and I'm now off of SCO and approaching the planet. That's just freaking tastic.
We were talking about this the other night. A few of us got in and were having a little party and playing the game, and it turned into just random chit chats. But this came up, and yes, absolutely. The kudos to the SCO drive is going to go down as like one of Frontier's greatest ideas. It's simplicity, and it's answering a complaint that like I mentioned, people complain about the travel time in this game. This was like before I'd even picked up the game. It was before the Krayt Phantom had been added to the game, and I was reading reviews, and this was one of the sticking points. We
both read that same article, right?
Yeah, it was like, and content creators routinely continued to mention it all the way up through the entire life of the game. It was like, well, you kind of got to be okay with this. And I liked it, I liked the commitment, and I think all of us who stuck with the game understand what that commitment stood for. So how did they take that away without taking it away? And they found it, you know what I mean? They threaded that needle. They created gameplay while
they made it
shortening
fun,
your travel
too.
time,
Like,
and
really
made it fun.
fun.
They added instead of just deleting something that was in your way, because that's not how to make a good game, right? Your good game isn't just like we were saying the other week, a button that says win, and they just did it so fantastically.
I also want to point
out, it really has that vibe of old school Turbo Boost, and it feels like you're using it because the physics is so compelling, and it makes Super Cruise, where we spend so much time, all of a sudden exciting.
And I also want to point out, I did that distance in a Type 8, which is even more fuel efficient with the SCO, and it used maybe a quarter of my available fuel to do that. Little less than. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm here at the planet now. I'm just happy as could be. Love this ship.
Good.
Would recommend.
Well, I think I was the last one to tell a story. So we've achieved a 2-hour podcast according to my little thing here. So
frick, dang,
that's pretty good, right?
Oh,
that's pretty good.
I think it becomes less accurate. Let's see. We started at 8. It's not quite 2 hours yet.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's not 2 hours. You're making stuff up.
Whatever. Does anybody have any other stuff that they want to throw into this very special episode 250 for September 5th, 2024?
For all the talk of the calamity that was Odyssey, this engineering rebalance has changed it a lot. It's considerably easier and more fun to get the mats you need. All of a sudden, after doing almost none of it, I now have a G5 Maverick and a G5 Dominator and G5 weapons for stuff. And it's like flying a spaceship. It's just more fun when the equipment is advanced in a way that you want it to be and has some bells and whistles added. And just the whole experience is more fun for the removal of that kind of the grind. And that's one of those cases where they didn't really add new gameplay. They just said, you know what, we're recalibrating how much it takes and how much stuff you get. And it pushed it back across a threshold where it's fun. It didn't take me months and months of grinding to do it. It was more like figure out what things I need, go someplace like 6 Andromeda where there are like 80 on-foot missions at a time on the mission board. Know what you're looking for, pick a couple of things, and you can get right into building the weapons and the suits that you want, which I think is how they intended it to work. They just completely botched the calibration in terms of how many materials you need. And so if you haven't done that, give it a shot because it's more fun than you might think.
Yeah.
And
And
I mean, this game, one thing that it is good about the new engineering thing, and a lot of things with this game is just getting, because as we mentioned, it's a learning curve in this game, and you're always getting better, and that's where this game becomes a true sim because it is a skill at the end of the day flying these ships. So having it easier for people to get better ships and better engineering does not take away from your years of from a experienced player's years of experience. You're still going to be better at this game. You can take a new player, throw him in a fully engineered ship, and he's going to have zero chance against you in any anything you're doing in this game. So you have to, if you're going to get new players, you got to find ways to take away grind and just get them caught up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and that part about skill development really does matter. It's like I'll get to the end of playing like a session of whatever game and notice that a couple of hours have melted away, and I'll just kind of sit there for a second and be like, was that anything? Like, was I doing anything, or was I just killing time? And for whatever reason, even after a few years, when I get to the end of a session like that of playing Elite, I don't even really have that question because I was better at flying my spaceship when it was done than I was when I started, or better at figuring out how not to get shot in the head by a random security guard. That there are just all these skills that you actually have to develop in order to play, which is not always the case in video games. Sometimes they express you to the 60% mark, and then you spend, a week or two getting the rest of the way through, and then you're done and you move on. But for it to be a lifetime game or a long-term game or a my only game or something like that, it at least for me requires some substance to it. And for whatever reason, that combination of difficulty and the sort of integrity of the flight model and the rest of it makes it feel substantial, even if it is as much an arbitrary use of my time as playing Super Mario Brothers would be. There's still just something to it.
For sure.
I got nothing else.
Greatest accomplishment I'm most proud of in this game is us getting a gold medal in Xeno hunting that time. That was one of the coolest.
What
moments.
an unbelievable hero story.
Absolutely.
That was a good
Can
one.
we, what we should it's been so long, man. This was because this predates the Thargoid War, right? We made sure to get this in at the right time, kind of thing.
Just
it
barely,
predates all this stuff. So there I was. So we had gone as a squad, and actually some people might not even know about this, but there are squadron leaderboards in various activities. So like it keeps track of, just as an aggregate, how much trade your squadron does, how much whatever, bounty hunting, it keeps track of all these things. AX is one, CQC is one. So we had gotten ourselves did we get a bronze or a silver in CQC? Both, didn't we? On two separate periods.
Yeah, I think we got a bronze and a silver in CQC, yes.
Yeah, so, and I think that the periods are like 60 days or something like that. So it basically is taking the 60 days, and then just the leaderboards, you got, gold, silver, bronze, and then the rest of the leaderboards for that period, and then it starts over. So we had been pushing CQC a lot. This is back when Chig was hunting that CQC Elite, and we joined in as a squad to just play. And yeah, we had earned those medals over a couple of periods. We decided we wanted to get a medal in AX. So at the time there was it was like sort of just before the 22,460 thing, right? We timed it so well.
Yeah.
It was, so there were Thargoid attacks, pretty continual Thargoid attacks. It was the sort of things where like 3 systems would go into the invasions, the old system, and you work through to repel them. There were mission boards and things at nearby stations, and the whole thing was working really well. We would be on most nights, and we were committed to it. It was like, let's see what we can rack up. Let's see if we can try to score a bronze medal. We called it Operation Bronze Medal. We were so sure of ourselves, right? Because you have AXI. AXI, they're way out in front. and then you have a few others. And anyway, so we went for it, and Chig being he loves math, this guy, and he was kind of keeping this running total, and he keeps quiet about it. But like as the 60 days starts to get near the end, it starts to become clear like what's happening. And so we did, a bunch of us did the you can do the double of your bonds through power play. There's a few power play factions where if you get up to like the highest grade, then they will pay you double for combat bonds. So a bunch of us who had racked up large amounts, because you don't have to turn in your AX bonds as you go, you can just store them there in your transactions panel for days and weeks. And so that's what we were doing, just storing them up, and then we were going to double them at the end. And we worked and worked and worked. We got to the end, took a day and worked my way up to, the highest level or whatever for whichever power it was. And I turned in, I think, like 33 billion or something like that worth.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think I got about 12 billion after doubling. And that was when those Finance Fridays and things like that were still going on, that you could just get on and find a throng of people making a Thargoid disco ball and walk out with hundreds of millions of credits. And I mean, for me, at that point I was still kind of new to it, so I just wanted to punch my weight. So I would sit down and, before work, I'd knock off a couple of Cyclops and out in the nebula, and come back. And, I got to a point where I was doing 10 or 15 or 20 Cyclops a day, just over the course of that, month or two. And, and, people would come back from the weekend, like, oh, I got another 600 million credits. So it was a real, I don't know, there were maybe 12 or 15 people, it seemed like, who were really actively participating over the course of that.
Something like that. There was maybe a dozen putting up a lot of time and effort, and then there was obviously like at least 24 more that did some that participated. But at this point in the story, this is probably where I pass it to Chig, and he tells, because there was the night that I turned my bonds in, the night before. This was all going to go off at like 2 a.m. my time. So I had prepared and like sold. Okay, I'm selling them. I'm up to 33, and Chig had been keeping track, just kind of verbally. Like I knew I was up to about 33, and he's like, and he's kind of and he keeps making these sounds.
I was running the numbers and keeping track of where everybody kind of was, and it was starting to look like we might have a chance to take first. There was Anti-Xeno Initiative, largest, their Discord is ridiculously huge, and that's what they do. They kill bugs. And
I think you had told me there was a chance that we might get silver.
Yeah, I thought we had a definite chance. I realized we definitely were going to get silver. It was going to be close between silver and bronze, but it's like we're going to overachieve. We're going to overachieve. And that last night, because I think I turned in like 40 billion in bonds. I don't remember the exact number. It was a big number though. And then that last night, it was like Volt was on and I was on, and we're watching it because this is our first time kind of going down to the wire on something like this. So we're turning in bonds, and there was another squadron called the Order of Dripnificence. We were in competition kind of with them for second or third. We weren't sure which one of us. And then I'm starting to calculate the numbers, and like, we might have a chance at first, unless AXI turns in a bunch of bonds right at the last minute. I thought we might have a chance. And then
which wasn't a game that they were playing, right? Like
exactly.
AXI does this all the time. So they're not just like, they have all their gold medals already.
We get every other
gold,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're doing this in Dripnificence. They're hopping in our Discord that night, and we're talking with them, and we're chatting in game as we're turning in bonds that night. We see that it's going to be close, and I'm like, we've got them beat handily, I'm pretty sure. Then all of a sudden it started to dawn, as we're into the last hour of the season, it's like, we might have a chance. And we're
they were realizing too. They were putting him in. I mean, it's all very sportsmanlike and stuff. It was outstandingly executed by all involved. It was great chatting with those guys.
Yeah, it was fun. We were having a lot of fun with it. And then when it turns in and we turn them in, it's like, Well, when do they do the official? When is the tick? You know, when do we know for sure that we got it? Because the time ticked and we had the lead by like a very small margin. It was like 180 billion. Both us and Anti-Xeno Initiative were at the 180 billion in bonds turned in that month or that season. And then it was 180.7 to 180.2 or something. You know, it was like super freaking close. I think actually the numbers were closer than that if I remember. And then Dribnificence, they ended up getting bronze, but they were super excited for us too because all of a sudden we won. We got gold. So it become instead of, you know, Operation Bronze Medal, all of a sudden it became Oops All Gold or
Oops,
whatever
all
we
gold.
changed it to.
Well, so as I recall the story, like I said, I went to bed and there's still a couple of hours left, and you guys are still fighting. And Chig's back in the napkin math. He starts saying to everybody, "Maybe let's just do one more CZ."
Yeah,
and you guys are turning in, and it comes out at the end by 8 million.
Yeah, it was like
is
one
this correct?
Cyclops, I think.
The value of one Cyclops. So, and what this means is, yeah, I mean, it was those like 4 or so people who stayed up till 2 a.m. or whatever it was.
And even that,
turned
it's
in.
the value
Actually, it
of
was
one
over the course of
person
the whole
tagging
month.
one Cyclops.
Yeah.
But
like,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
It was one Cyclops over the course of the whole 60 days. So what we were able to turn around to say to everybody is, you know, like all of us who have been putting up like 30 billion in bonds, and a bunch of you put up, you know, 100, you know, 1,000, and you know, some small number. Like anybody who killed a Cyclops during this thing, you were there at the end.
You were
like
the
that was
difference.
the inches over the finish line because it came down to that narrow a number, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, it was like I said, it's the proudest thing as a community. It was super cool that everybody kind of jumped in, even people who had never done Anti-Xena were coming in just to help us get to that target because we wanted that bronze medal, and we can't even do that.
And
right.
if any one of them didn't participate in one Cyclops, it would have been different.
Yeah, exactly. Just that.
That's it.
Oh my God! It's so I've got the screenshot somewhere. I'll have to dig those up because that was an amazing accomplishment. And that beat getting Elite CQC. That was fun, but that was just a fucking year-long grind. Don't get me wrong, I still play CQC. If I could get CQC matches every night, that's what I'd be doing every night for my video game fun. I love that dog fighting style of that, and that's my favorite. Soloing a Hydra, that is a huge accomplishment in this game. It is something that, you know, I worked really hard to do and finally got it. But at the end of the day,
less than 400 people in the world, I think, to this day.
I've
done that.
It's not something
it's pretty
that's easy to do. Yeah.
And that, you know, back when we did it was like 281 or something people in the entire world had done that. I felt pretty good about that. It's nothing compared to this gold medal.
Yeah, that's exactly. I don't care that those cool little individual things are fine, but the fact that everybody worked together like we did to just squeak that out, and then, you know, we joke about how, man, we can't even do Operation Bronze Medal right. We fucked that up. We got gold. What a bunch of idiots, you know. So we had all month we were like, we're gonna get bronze, and then we ended up getting gold. So super cool. That's my favorite moment in this game in history. Right below that is my first night, like I said, sipping whiskey and looking, you know, before I even knew how to play this game, and the night I fell in love with this game is a quote. Is number 2. I'm not even going to say close. Number 2.
It's number 2.
that gold medal, that was my absolute favorite moment in this game, without a doubt. And it's because of the community, and that's what this podcast is about. That's what our Discord is about. And that's honestly what this game is about. It's the friends you make along the way.
That's right. Well, this is a good place to probably close up, right?
Yeah.
Indigo, do you have a favorite game moment that you want to talk about?
I mean, really just that, you know, that I'm on the same page. That was an incredible couple of months. It's a good example of making your own fun, you know, that you had this incredible drama and this incredible excitement. And, you know, AXI folks have won so many gold medals, and we're in kind of a lull because this big war was about to start. And it just was such a constellation of of events that made that whole thing possible, and for it to work out the way it did was, yeah, kind of a once in a lifetime game experience, I think.
Yeah, amazing. All right. Well, thanks you guys for joining me. Lark Shadow had to duck out. We ran pretty long and he's been called away, but thanks to him and thanks to Indigo and Chig. This was
and
this
the
was
other
fun.
and the other 15 people who've been on the show.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
Everybody who's on the show, long live the podcast, right?
I thought this was last episode. No, it's not, is it?
Yeah, the Loose Screws is dead. Long live Loose Screws.
LC's.
We'll see if anybody turns up to do the show next week. Yeah, but other than that, same old links in to everything we talked about, which is basically just us, are in the notes. And loosescrewsed.com, Discord links in there, Patreon if you feel so inclined to support the show. And that's the size of it.
Everybody, you guys,
thanks.
Thanks for listening to this shit.
250 damn episodes and more, 275.
Yeah.
You did this.
Who did what? Me?
It's just the listeners.
They did
you
it.
Did this.
They didn't do it. You did it. You're the sound guy. You know what you're doing. We don't.
Yeah, I did kind of profess that I don't care if anyone listens, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess that's my message. Who cares?
Okay, just for the record, we have 3 medals: 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze as a squadron in history. And I don't know how to see what those are in.
It's AX gold, and then the silver and bronze are CQC.
Yeah. Wow, we got 2 in CQC.
There keeps being talk about trying to go for one in like trade or something. One set. That's not going to be my game.
No,
I'm not gonna spearhead that one. But if anyone wants to, I will happily facilitate any community leadership that needs to be facilitated, which basically means I'll probably just make sure you have a channel or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, we can do more medals. You just somebody with initiative has to step up and do it.
Yeah, because we've got none.
I spent all mine already. All right, this is good. Let's
All right, shut it off already. Jesus Christ.
Shut it off already. See you next week, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.